Hello everyone, welcome back to Jayflair. In today's tutorial, we're going to be making this beautiful shift dress. This dress has a high and low effect. The back is longer than the front. So let's dive right in. This is a sketch of the dress we'll be making. It's a shift dress, very free. There is no cutout sleeve. I'll be cutting the sleeve and the bodice together. I'll be using the Ankara for the sleeve and the hemline area. The center front is dropped and curved towards the sides for the front and the back, and it has a neck slit. Now these are the two fabrics I'll be using. For the Ankara fabric, I'll be using for the hemline and the sleeve area, and the plain fabric is this one. I have 2 yards of this fabric, and for the Ankara fabric I have not up to 1.5 yards altogether. Okay, so we'll be using our darkless bodice pattern, and I'll be drafting the pattern from scratch. Now my paper is folded into two. I'll be drafting the front and the back pattern together, after which I'll cut out the front and then the back. So I'll start by marking my shoulder to bust point, or shoulder to nipple, shoulder to under bust, shoulder to waist, and shoulder to hip, and then shoulder to knee. And then I'll square out the lines. Okay, I'll just use my marker to draw out the lines for the various points. And then I'll mark my shoulder measurement. My shoulder divided by 2, which is 8.5 inches. And then I'll draw a line to my bust line. Okay, from the top of my paper here, I'll just come down by 1 inch, which is my shoulder slope. And then I'll mark my shoulder seam length, or you can just use a basic neck width of 3 inches. Okay, so the next thing will be to divide my bust circumference by 6 plus 1 inch. Okay, and then I'll be drawing a line on that point, which becomes my armhole depth line. And then on this line, I'll be marking my bust circumference divided by 4. And that's it. And then on the waistline, I'll be marking my waist circumference divided by 4. Now this pattern is a dartless pattern. There is no dart for the front and the back, no bust dart or waist dart. So I'll just impute only my waist circumference measurement. And then on the hip line, I will impute my hip circumference divided by 4. And whatever measurement I got, I'll mark at the knee line. The knee line is the end of my pattern. And then I'll connect all these points together to form the side of my pattern. And then from the shoulder slope to the armhole depth line, I'll just divide that line into 2 and then square a line towards the center front of my pattern. And this becomes my across the front, or front span, back span, whichever one you call it. And then on this line, I'll go in by 3/4 inch and 1/4 inch. Now the 3/4 inch will be connected to the shoulder slope, and the 1/4 inch will also be connected, and this forms the front and the back armhole. Okay, so I'll just connect to my armhole depth line. Okay, and so I have my front and my back armhole curve. Okay, so for the back neckline, I'm marking 1 inch downwards and then 3.5 inches for the front. So I'll just connect all these points to the tip of my neck. That's the top of my paper here. Okay, so I have my front and back neckline. And then this is a dartless pattern. Like I said, there is no dart. Now this is the pattern I'll be using to cut on my fabric for this beautiful shift dress that we're making. Okay, so I'm just going to cut it out and then separate the front from the back. So I'm done separating my patterns, and this one becomes the back and this is the front. For the front, I'll cut out the front neckline and the armhole. So I'll just label them back and front. So let's start with the cutting on our fabric. We'll be starting with the front pattern. Now the center front is quite lower than the sides if you observe. So I'm going to drop my center front. So this is my knee and this is my hip line, okay? And then I'm going to drop my center front a bit more than the sides. So I came down by 6 inches, okay? 6 inches. Initially, I later dropped it more by 2 inches. So let's say I came down by 8 inches from the center front hip line and I connected to 2 inches below the hip line, okay? I dropped the center front by 8 inches from the hip line and I connected to 2 inches below the hip line on the side of the front pattern. So I had to add to my paper to get the full length of my dress. That's the extra paper you are seeing there. So my full length is 46. So I'll just mark that from that point. So this is the full length of my pattern. So I just drew out this line. Remember, this is the front we are working on. So like I said, I dropped the curved line by 2 inches. So from the initial curved line, I dropped it by 2 inches from the center front and from the side. And that's what I'm connecting right now. And then I'll just measure from this new line, the new curved line to the M line. Whatever I have, I'll take it at the side. So I have like 10 inches and then I'll just mark 10 inches on the sides. That's from where my curved line started and stopped at the side of my pattern. I hope you get it. Okay, so whatever you have on the center front, mark it at the side. Okay, and then you're going to connect those 2 points with a curved line. Hope you get it. Okay, so connect with curved line and this becomes the new M line. If you check the picture, you've noticed that the M line is not straight. Okay, that's what we're trying to get here. The M line is curved. It's curved towards the center front. Center front is longer than the sides, okay? And the center back is longer than the center front of this pattern. So we are done with the front of our pattern right now. And then before cutting, let's work on the back pattern. We're just going to be repeating all the steps we did in the front, okay? So I'm placing my front on the back, matching all the sides, the hip line for the front and the back. And then I just got this point here. That's the point where the curved line started from on the side here and at the center front. Okay, so the next thing that I would do is to take this measurement on the front, okay, and then I'll mark the same thing on the back. Just mark that same measurement on the back, okay, and then you connect to the side, and this is it. And then from that point, I'm going to drop the pattern a bit more at the back, that's the center back, than I did at the front. So the measurement on the side will match with the measurements on the side for the front. Please take note of that, okay? The front and the back side measurements will be equal, but the center back will be a bit lower. So I just added extra paper, okay? So I dropped the center back by 2 inches more than the front, more than the center front, okay? And that's why it's looking like this. So this is the center back and this is the side back. So the center back is quite longer than the center front, but the sides are equal. And that's all I'll be doing for this pattern. So I'm just labeling the various parts before cutting. This is what my front and back pattern look like after cutting, and this is what I'll be using to cut on my fabric. The bodice part will be cut on the plain fabric, while the down part will be cut on the Ankara fabric. So let's start with the front. I have my pattern pinned on my fabric. The center front is on fold. So what I'm gonna do is to extend since I'm cutting the shoulder, that's the sleeve and the bodice together, I'll just extend my shoulder seam and then mark whatever shoulder measurements I want. Okay, so I'm using 10 inches for this dress, and then I'll square a line downwards from that point. And on this new line, I'll be marking my sleeve opening. I'm using 9 inches for this pattern. Whatever your round arm is at that point, just mark it here. So I have my sleeve opening marked at that point there. Then I'll square a line inwards, that's towards me, like this. And then on that line, I'll just mark 4 inches, okay? And this is it. Then going to the M line, I will extend this point here, I'll just mark 5 inches. That's on the hip line area there. Then on the waistline, I'll mark 3 inches. That's the seam allowance I'm adding to this pattern. 5 inches to the M line and 3 inches at the hip line. Then I'll connect with a slight curve towards the armhole area, forming the side of my dress. So I'll just connect this point from my pattern to the seam allowance, okay? Then I'll add half inch to the M line, half inch to the shoulder, half inch to the neckline, and that will be all for the front of my pattern. And this is what my front looks like right now after cutting. Now this dress has a side pocket, so I just marked my waistline there. Then I'll go down by 8 inches for my pocket opening, and then I created a notch. Okay, for the back pattern, I'll be repeating the same thing I did at the front. I'll just extend my shoulder line, mark the measurements, okay, that I marked in the front. The front and the back must match correctly, and then I'll square down a line, and then on this new line, I'll mark my sleeve opening. Okay, so I'm just confirming from the front to be sure that I'm marking the correct thing, and then I'll square a line inwards, okay, and mark 4 inches on that line. And then at the M line, I'll just mark 5 inches on the waistline, 3 inches seam allowance, then connect to the armhole and then to the M line, forming the side of my pattern. And then at the M line, I'll mark half inch seam allowance at the shoulder area, and then half inch on the neckline. Then I'll cut my pattern. For the down part, this is my Ankara fabric on fold, and this is the center front area. So the same seam allowance that I added to the down part of the plain fabric, I'll be adding here, that's 5 inches. So I'll just connect the top and the bottom, creating the side of this pattern here. Then I'll add half inch seam allowance to the top here, then I'll cut. This is what the front looks like after cutting. Then I'm going to cut the back the same way. The center back will be on fold, and then I'll add the necessary seam allowance. These are all my patterns cut out. This is the front of the down part on fold. The back is also on fold, and this is the plain fabric part. Now this is my fabric cut on bias grain I'll be using to turn the neckline. And this is the fabric I'll be using to turn the sleeve. I cut 3 inches on fold for the both sleeves. Okay, so I'm just going to take out my pins from the patterns, and then I'll be showing you what next to do. And then I also cut facing for the front neckline because there is a slit at the front neckline. There is a slit at the front neckline, so I cut out facing for it. Okay, Now I'm going to be adding interfacing on the facing part, but I just want to show you what I intend to do. Okay, so for the facing part, to get the sleeve, the first thing I will do is to fold my fabric into two equal parts, and then I'll create a notch on the neckline. I'll do the same thing on the front of my dress. I'll just fold my fabric into two and then mark the middle of my neckline, then create a notch. Okay, so I'm going to match. Okay, and then I did the same thing on the back also. Then I'll match the notch on the facing to the notch on the front of my dress. Okay, and then I'll just pin that down. I'll just draw a line down at the center front. Just draw a straight line down. And then on that line, I'm going to be marking the slit opening. Whatever depth you want for your slit, just mark it at this point. For mine, I'm using 4 inches, okay? And then on each sides of the line, I'm going to be marking 1/4 inch. That's 1/4 on each sides of the line. And then that is where I'll be sewing. I'll be sewing on 1/4 inch. Okay, so I'm just connecting all the points that I made, okay, on the both sides. And then I'm going to create like a triangle at this point, like 1/2 inch from the bottom of this line, then connect to the sides, creating like a triangle, which I'll be notching after sewing. I'm going to be notching on that triangle line on both sides so that my slit can relax properly after sewing. Okay. So guys, I'm done with sewing the slits for the front, and then I'm going to be cutting through to the point where I have the triangle. Just watch what I'm doing. I'll just cut all the way, and then when I get to the point of the triangle, I'm gonna slant my scissors towards the sides. Okay, so just watch me. I'll slant towards the side. Can you see that? Slant towards the side. Ensure you get to the point where the stitch line is. And this is what the slit looks like after notching. Okay, so ensure you notch yours so that it lays very flat after ironing. And then I've also gone ahead to join the Ankara fabric to the plain fabric at hemline for the front and the back, and this is what it looks like right now. Okay, so let's move on to the shoulder area. I'm going to be joining the front and the back right sides facing each other. I'll be joining them together on 1/2 inch seam allowance on the shoulder seam. Okay, I'll be doing that for the both shoulders. Okay, and then for the sleeve, I'm going to be attaching the Ankara fabric on the sleeve. I'll sew it on the plain fabric from the wrong side and then flip to the right side, then do a top stitch. So guys, this is what it's looking like right now. I have ironed the slits and every other side that I have joined, the neck, the shoulder area, and everything is laying flat. And I have also um, joined the Ankara fabric to the sleeve, and I did a top stitch. Okay, I did a top stitch at the front of the dress. There is a top stitch there. So the next thing would be to join them on the sides using the same allowance that I left. So I'll just match all the various parts correctly together, and then I'll be sewing from the armhole all the way to the hemline. I'll do that for the both sides. And then for the hemline, because the hemline is curved, I'm going to cut my fabric, Ankara fabric on bias grain, and then I'll be using that to turn the hemline. Okay, so this curved part here at the side, I'll just create a notch there so it lays flat. Okay, that's the curved part from the armhole area. I'll do that on the both sides. And then this is my fabric cotton bias grain that I'll be using to turn the neckline. I'll start with sewing from the inside, okay? The right side of the Ankara fabric facing the wrong side of the neckline. And then after sewing, I'm gonna notch, flip to the front of the dress, and then I'm gonna do a top stitch on the front part of the neckline. For the side pockets, I'm going to be cutting my fabric um, 12 inches by 9 inches, okay? And then I'll be cutting two for each of the pockets. Now to fix the pocket, I'm going to measure from my shoulder to the waistline. Remember I created a notch initially. So from that point where the notch is, okay, I'll just mark it, okay? Then I'm going to be attaching the pocket from that point, okay, on the waistline. I'll be sewing right side facing each other, the right side of the Ankara fabric for the pocket facing the right side of the fabric, and then I'll sew with half inch. Can you see right side facing each other? Then I'll sew with half inch seam allowance. And then I'll do the same thing for this other one. Right side facing each other. I'll just pin that down and I'll sew with half inch seam allowance. And then after sewing that part, I'm going to do a back stitch on the fabric itself. Okay, no, I've sewn the fabric already. I've sewn the sides. So I'll do a back stitch, continue on the pocket. Okay, then do another back stitch at the side. Then I'll use my seam ripper to remove the stitches. These are the buttons that I intend to add to this beautiful stylish dress. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed learning how to create this stylish shift dress with side pockets and high-low hemline. If you try this out, do not forget to tag me or share your creations in the comment section. I love seeing how you bring these designs to life. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe for more exciting tutorials. See you in the next one. Happy sewing. Bye.